Several years ago, I was interviewing one of our community members for our platform, and we were talking about this concept of food addiction. And we were talking about what it takes to truly repair your relationship with food. And she told me such a compelling story. She talked about how she knew she really had a problem when one day she had bought some cookies and she was really, really trying to practice restraint, practice moderation. And so she said she ate a few of the cookies, then she put them away. She put them in the cabinet. She said, but she got upstairs and she couldn't stop thinking about the cookies. And so inevitably she went back downstairs and she got more cookies out of the cabinet and ate a few. And she realized that it just wasn't safe to have the cookies in the house. And so she decided to throw the cookies in the trash. So she threw the cookies away and she's like, I'm done. Her goal was weight loss at the time. So she's like, I got to lose this weight. I'm done. I am not going to let these cookies ruin my weight loss goals. And so she threw them in the trash. She said she went on with her day. She went, back upstairs, chilling out for the day. And she said she couldn't get the cookies off of her mind. She said she inevitably went back downstairs, retrieved the cookies out of the trash can, and ate them. And she said she knew that she had an issue and an unhealthy relationship with sugar. She said at that time, she also had some other behaviors that was an indicator that there may have been an issue at hand. She said because she would go through drive-throughs when she was on her way home from work and get fast food and then go home and cook dinner for her family and eat with the family, right? So she really told me this story of a time in her life where she really struggled with having control around food, especially food that was heavy with sugar, heavy with salt, heavy with fat. And as she told that story, and we shared that story in a community, several other individuals really were able to relate to that experience with really not feeling like they are in control when it comes to certain substances, whether it be food, alcohol, whatever it may be. And as I learned her story and started realizing that so many individuals struggle with this challenge, I decided to incorporate information and content in our curriculum in our plant-based coaching program Farm to Table about food addiction. So what I want to do today is pull from that curriculum, pull from that content and help you guys understand what may be some indicators that you have an unhealthy relationship with food. Welcome back to Monday Morning Keynote with yours truly. I am Coach Lisa A. Smith, founder of the Plant Protocol and the Plant Protocol 30-Day Vegan, Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge. We are about to get into the next installment of our lifestyle disease series and our run-up to the next challenge starting January 1st, 2026. As we get into today's content, make sure you have your emotional support tee. I have my gold handle here. Listen, sometimes during these Monday morning keynotes, it gets a little familiar. I start saying things that resonate quite heavily, and I want to make sure you're sipping on something to help soothe you as I move through this content today, because this one is a serious one. Many of us don't even realize that we have an unhealthy relationship with food. And it's not all your fault. I'm going to get into that too. I'm going to talk about where some of this comes from, but I'm also going to give you a short 3-point assessment to help you identify whether or not you may have an unhealthy relationship with food. And I'm also going to tell you how our 30-Day Vegan Challenge and our whole food plant-based approach is going to help you correct it, right? So I'm excited. Make sure you have your emotional support tee up and ready to go. Let's get into it. I'm excited. Make sure you drop in the comments in the chat what you sipping on as you watch today's video. The Lifestyle Disease series is our way of preparing you for our next 30-Day Vegan Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge. This is a challenge. We have hundreds of participants every single time, and it is our way of introducing you to the power of plants, of helping you to use food as medicine, and most importantly, giving you the jump start to putting a lot of these lifestyle conditions like type 2 diabetes and obesity and high blood pressure and autoimmune conditions and, mental health challenges and chronic inflammation and chronic fatigue and chronic stress into remission by using food, by starting with food and then adding on mindset and belief systems and education. So it's a phenomenal experience. If you haven't, make sure you tap that link that's pinned in the comments to get registered for the next Plant Protocol 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. Now let's get into it. We have a plant-based coaching program called Farm to Table. And I remember several semesters ago, I was teaching, and one of our students, I was teaching specifically the module about food addiction and how to identify if you might have an unhealthy relationship with food. And I very specifically remember her being so blown away by that lesson because she then raised her hand and said, "Yo, coach, I didn't even know you could be addicted to food." So before I could even get into the lesson, she had to wrap her brain around the fact that food can also be a substance, just like alcohol, just like drugs. And she's like, "This is news to me. I never even thought about the fact that food can be addictive." So for some of you, this may be news to you as well. But food addiction is a real thing. It is a real condition. There are support groups and a ton of content, information, and support out there if you believe you may have a food addiction. Today, I just want to get into a surface level content around this so that it can help you to identify whether or not you need to be making a bigger effort towards eliminating some of these things out of your diet. And let me tell you why today's lesson and content is so, so important. Is primarily because one of the most popular ways, I'll say that because y'all know I get in my feelings when I talk about this particular subject, but one of the most popular ways that a lot of us try to improve our health, especially when it comes to our diet, is through this concept of moderation. And what we try and do is tell ourselves that we can control the amount of something that we have that's not good for us. So I can control my sugar intake. I can control my fast food intake. I can control my alcohol intake, right? I can control how much I eat out. I can control my portion sizes. And we use this concept of moderation to give ourselves permission to still consume many of the same things that led to us being overweight or hypertensive or high cholesterol or chronic inflammation, right? Or, autoimmune conditions, right? Skin conditions, fertility issues, food aids and all of those conditions, unfortunately. But when we're trying to get healthy, many of us, we really try and give it our best shot. And we use this concept of moderation to do so. But the approach that we take, especially in our 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge, is we take an abstinence approach. And I'm about to break down to you why we do that. But we practice abstinence for those 30 days. So instead of giving allowances for smaller amounts, we encourage our participants to give it all up for 30 days. Let all of the saturated fat go and the cholesterol go from the animal products. Let all of the sugar, refined processed sugar go. Let all of the salt, let all of the oil go. And that is a major undertaking, but let me break down why. So when I teach food addiction and when I teach how to know if you may have an unhealthy relationship with food, there are 3 specific things that I ask participants to think about and look for. And I'm going to break those down for you really quickly. And this is just an assessment that I created based on observation of hundreds of clients we've had over the years. So actually thousands, like we've been in business 10 years. So it's been thousands of individuals. That is multiple cohorts of our plant-based coaching program, Farm to Table. That also includes multiple private one-on-one clients. That includes challenges. That includes a ton of speaking engagements that I've done, engaging with individuals, helping them through the reparation of their relationship with food. And so in talking, coaching, and speaking, I have identified and collected data on thousands of people over the years. And what I've been able to boil that down to is 3 distinct circumstances that may indicate that you have an unhealthy relationship with food. One of these alone, not so bad, but the combination of them might be a red flag for you. And so here we go. Let's get into it. Number 1, Number one, how to know if I have an unhealthy relationship with food. I'm going to give you a behavioral indicator. I'm going to give you a physiological indicator, and I'm going to give you an emotional indicator. All right. And I want to break these down in the form of before, during, and after the consumption of food, before, during, or after. Okay. So let's take one of the most popular things that people have a hard time letting go of, which is sugar. Okay, so we'll just use sugar in this example, just refined processed sugar. So this is your typical sweets. This is the sugar you're adding to your coffee and your teas. This is the sugar that's added to all of the processed, packaged, and fast food that we consume, right? This is the bad stuff, right? So not fruit, not healthy sweeteners, but we're talking about the bad stuff. So I'm going to give you a before, during, and after indicator that you might have an unhealthy relationship with food. Here is number one. Before, this is the behavioral category. So if you are in a place where you are trying to abstain from sugar because you have some health goals and you recognize very clearly that the refined processed sugar, every time you consume it, right, you have a adverse reaction to it. And so you've made up your mind. You said, you know what? I need to really let this sugar go. I know I feel tired every time I consume it. I have hot flashes, or I gain weight, or I have inflammation, or I have memory loss, or I'm dehydrated, all of the things that come with eating refined processed sugar. But you walk into the office, or you walk into the family dinner, or a friend pops up, or your birthday approaches and people want to surprise you, and there's cake, and there's dessert, and there's cupcakes. The office is having a holiday shindig and they have all your favorite things right there, right? Now, you, before getting to the holiday party, had made up your mind that I need to abstain from sugar. But when you get there and it's in front of you, or when you get home and your hubby has brought home some cookies or his favorite snack, right? Wherever this may be, office, home, out with friends, at a conference, whatever it is, you inevitably, after declaring that you're going to be sugar-free, that you are going to abstain in this season so you can reach your health goals, but when it's in front of you, you lose self-control. The first indicator that you may have an unhealthy relationship with food is the loss of self-control. This means you have stated, you have proclaimed, you have decided that you're going to remove this from your diet because you are in a season where you're trying to heal the body or the mind or the brain. However, even though you don't buy it, even though you don't seek it out, you are in a circumstance where it is available and you lose self-control. One of the indicators that you have an unhealthy relationship with a substance is that it inevitably has more control over you than you have over it. So the first indicator is a loss of self-control. This is what happens before you even consume. You see it. You really were trying really hard. It looked too good. It smelled too good, whatever it is. And you lost self-control, right? The loss of self-control may be the first indicator that you have an unhealthy relationship with a substance. So let's get into number two. So let's say, after you lose self-control, you consume, right? You couldn't resist, the snacks that your partner brought home, or, you and your partner was out and they wanted to stop and get a sweet treat. And so you couldn't resist anymore. Yeah, I'll take a small scoop, or I'll have a little slither, or I'll just have one or two, whatever you tell yourself, one or two pieces, small bite-sized pieces of chocolate. It can't hurt, right? Okay. So you lose self-control. First indicator that, whoa, this may be a challenge, because I declared that I had goals. And I violated that. Okay. Loss of self-control. Okay. But then whilst eating it, whilst consuming it, right? You're eating it, you do the damage, whatever it may be. The second indicator that you may have an unhealthy relationship with a substance is emotional. That means during the consumption of it, you feel guilt and shame. You feel guilt and shame. So you don't feel good about the decision you made. Um, as many of us do when we kind of break our promises to ourselves, we start feeling guilty. We start feeling shame. We may even have some negative self talk. We may beat ourselves up about our inability to stick to the plan, right? All the human things start happening, right? So now emotionally, you're feeling guilt and shame around your decision. Very similar to, my client that I talked about at the beginning. She talked about when she went and retrieved the cookies out of the trash, she felt a lot of guilt and shame. It's also why she would stop at the drive-thrus on her way home from work, eat the food in the car, dispose of it because of the guilt and shame, right? So the loss of self-control triggers these feelings of guilt and shame, right? Because we're breaking our promises to ourselves, and that never feels good. So that may be the second indicator, right? So we have a loss of self-control, behavioral, that happens before. Then during the consumption, we have feelings of guilt and shame. So that's emotional, right? The third and final indicator that I've observed from thousands of individuals over the years as they're trying to repair their relationship with food is actually what happens when you successfully abstain from the food. So this third one is what happens when you actually stick to your goals. You say, you know what, I'm going to take this challenge and I'm going to go all in, and you actually abstain from sugar for the full 30 days. You actually do what you signed up to do. The third indicator that you may have developed an unhealthy relationship with a food, and especially a dependence on a substance, is what happens when you abstain, which is detox and withdrawal. Detox and withdrawals. So when you have been consuming something for a while and your body has become accustomed to it, and inevitably you stop. So this is what happens when you're actually successful at practicing abstinence. What happens when you actually stop consuming the sugar, stop consuming the salt, stop consuming the fatty foods, stop consuming the alcohol, but you were used to consuming it on a regular basis, nearly daily? Stop consuming the caffeine, all of the coffee or the energy drinks. What happens when you stop? The third indicator is detox and withdrawals. That means that you've been consuming so much of a substance that's not good for you that there is a physiological response to abstinence. Physiological and mental. So the physiological means you may actually experience things like headaches, mood swings, extreme cravings, right? Exhaustion, fatigue. That really happens with our students who really have a dependency on caffeine. And they're like, Lisa, I do 2 to 3 cups of coffee every day with sugar and cream. And now you're telling me no dairy, no sugar, and I got to abstain for the caffeine. Oh my God. And so when they stop, there are absolutely withdrawal symptoms, right? We know this from substance abuse. When you stop consuming a substance that your body and your brain have become accustomed to receiving on a certain schedule, there is detox and withdrawals. And so that is the third indicator that there may have been an unhealthy relationship with a substance. That means we consume it so much that we have an adverse reaction to not having it. So let's review these 3 things so that you can make a determination on whether or not this is a challenge for you. Number 1, you may have an unhealthy relationship with food if you have a loss of self-control. I'm trying to abstain from it, but when I get around it, I can't control myself, right? You might not buy it. You might not bring it home. You might not suggest you guys go out and get it. But if it is in your presence, you can't control yourself. Or you just think about it so much, you do go out and get it. There's a loss of self-control. It goes against everything you said you plan to do, but you can't control your behavior. Number 2 is then, what do you feel after you lose control? Is it guilt and shame? And then number 3 is, what do you feel when you actually practice abstinence? Do you have detox and withdrawals from not having that thing? So there is the metric for you to kind of measure where you are with your relationship with food. Now I want to tell you why abstinence is a much better approach. Okay. There's a couple of reasons why I want to encourage you guys to practice abstinence, because when we have an unhealthy relationship with food, it really, really compromises every health goal that we have. Because even if we're able to be clean for a certain amount of time, if we don't do the deeper work of repairing that relationship, we'll fall right back into those unhealthy behaviors the moment we're triggered. Right? The moment we're triggered. But let me tell you why this is not all completely your fault. Addiction is engineered into food these days, right? And the top three things that is added to food to make us dependent on it are salt, oil, and sugar, or salt, fat, and sugar, some type of fat, salt, and sugar. And that's part of the reason why we remove those three things during our 30-day vegan challenge, because people don't realize how dependent on them they are. People think they're in control. They think they have self-control. But the moment it is suggested that you give it up, especially if you have a disease or a condition where those substances are making it worse, and you can't give it up, even though you have the diabetes, you're overweight, you're chronically tired, you're chronically stressed, you can't control your emotions, right? You have the inflammation in your body, you have all of the hot flashes, you have the sleepless nights, you have the aches and pains, and even having all of that stuff, you can't stop consuming the substances that makes those things worse. That loss of self-control is an indicator that there may be an issue at hand. However, it's not all your fault. I need you to understand that addiction is engineered into our food, right? The chemists and the food companies have a very specific formula for making sure that you can't eat just one. In the food world, it's called the bliss point. The bliss point is the perfect combination of salt, oil, and sugar. It's the perfect combination. And that bliss point, when it's achieved, means the moment you pop one in your mouth, or the moment you heat that thing up, or you go through that drive through, they have added the perfect combination of salt, oil, and sugar into that French fry to make sure that you can't stop eating them, into that potato chip, into that coffee drink, into that latte, into that energy drink. They have engineered it so that you will keep coming back. So we have to practice abstinence. Here's why. Number one, abstinence allows you to go through the detox and withdrawals. The detox and withdrawals is how you begin to get clean. So I understand that it's hard. I understand you're tired now and you really think you have to have sugar and caffeine to wake up. I get that you really, really believe that you have to have this substance, but now you're tired. But the truth of the matter is that is your body. That is your body trying to make the adjustment to no longer having synthetic fuel. A lot of us really believe I can't have energy without this energy drink. I can't have energy without my coffee. I can't have energy without my latte. Like, I need this to feel awake and alive. The truth of the matter is you developed a dependency on a substance. In order to repair that relationship, we need abstinence, not moderation. So the moderation approach hasn't worked for you. It hasn't worked for you. We have to move into abstinence, but with abstinence comes detox and withdrawals. Those detox and withdrawals are a sign that, wow, I had really developed a physiological, a biological dependency on a substance. So we're going to have to go through it together. So that's why our 30-day vegan challenge, we know we are so supportive of you guys from a community standpoint. That's why I teach twice a week during the challenge, because I understand that you guys really need to be embedded into an ecosystem and with supportive community and coaches to really fight back, because those cravings are real. You know, those intrusive thoughts that tells you a little bit won't hurt, or I have to have, or I can't live without, all of the language that seeds the addiction. I'm telling you right now, the detox and withdrawals are necessary. So that's the first reason why abstinence is important, because you have to go through that to get the system completely clean, to make the palate sensitive to those things. And again, you've built up a tolerance for this stuff. You don't even realize how sweet that stuff is because you've built up a tolerance over the last several years. And so we have to lower your tolerance again for salt, oil, and sugar, and processed food and fast food and saturated fat and high cholesterol foods. And we have to get you clean. So that's the first reason why this approach is much better than moderation. The next is I need you to be able to deal with your stuff. The truth of the matter is, guys, that, you know, a lot of times we think when we have an addiction or a reliance on a substance that the substance is the problem. But I remember when I was really trying to better understand addiction so that I could help our students and our clients better, I studied Alcoholics Anonymous and I read their book. And I was just reading how they set up this system to help people get clean and sober. And, one of the things I learned through studying this is that the substance is not the problem, it's the answer, which means we think the sugar is the problem. So people are like, Coach, help me get off of sugar. Help me get off of, the substance. But the truth of the matter is, I need to know what the real problem is first. The sugar is holding space for something that sometimes we're not addressing. Sometimes the sugar is our way of practicing avoidance from what the bigger issue is, and we see that often in the addiction world. It's not the drugs or the alcohol that's the problem, they're the answer. And the question becomes, the answer to what? What are you trying to avoid? Is it loneliness? Is it grief? Is it sadness? Is it some type of depression? Like, what are you avoiding, right? What space or void is the food filling? We have to think through our stuff. We have to be willing to face our stuff. We have to be willing to start moving towards a practice of healing. It's not that the sugar is the issue, but what is the sugar for you? What type of comfort is it for you? I remember many years ago, I had, it was actually a therapist I was going to, but then the roles ended up being reversed and I started helping her with her stuff and her issue with sugar. And she told me, I'm good during the day, but when I get home at night, I feel like I can't go to sleep. I can't go to bed without sugar. And she realized through our conversation that it was because at night when she was alone, that's when things got silent. And she began to think about how she wasn't showing up in her business the way she wanted to because she wanted her own practice and she hadn't been moving toward that goal. And she was feeling some shame and some inadequacy about not doing so. And sugar comforted her. Right. So we needed to do the deeper work of, let's explore why we're not going all in on having your own practice. Right. The sugar was filling that void. And so we need an opportunity to deal with our stuff. We can't do that if the substance is still there filling the void. We got to open that thing up. We got to take a look inside. We got to peel back the layers. We have to dissect what we're really experiencing. And so it is time to feel all of your feelings. We no longer can use the caffeine or the energy or the fast food or the junk food or the potato chips to fill the void. So we need space to deal with our stuff, right? And then the next and most important reason why abstinence is a much better approach to repairing your relationship with food than moderation is because it stops the disease and the inflammation in its tracks. We want to heal. We don't want to just heal emotionally and mentally. Many of us are listening and watching right now, and we have health challenges. It is very difficult to heal the body and the brain consuming the same substance that caused the disease, that caused the diagnosis. If you're overweight, if you have heart disease, if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you have kidney failure, if you have fatty liver, if you are depressed, anxiety, bipolar, whatever it is, you have to clean up the system, give the body the best chance at repairing itself, right? And you don't do that by microdosing poison. You do that through abstinence, right? So if we want to stop the swelling and the hot flashes and the chronic aches and pains and the cramps, if we want to stop the erectile dysfunction, if we want to stop the progression of the cancer, we have to stop consuming the carcinogens. We have to stop consuming the inflammatory diet. It's not enough to just get a small fry or only have 2 cookies or only have a small piece of cake or only pour yourself a little bit of that drink. We have to stop consuming the things that cause disease. It's just, so if we are truly, truly committed to healing, we do that, we show that through eliminating the things that got us to where we are today, that got us to diagnosis, right? And so believing that you can now switch to a microdose protocol is dysfunctional thinking. That is the addiction talking. That's the food telling you, you can just still have a little bit of me and we can, no. Abstinence is the goal. When we go into rehab for a substance, we don't microdose the drug. we get rid of it. We replace it with cleaner options that don't, where our body doesn't have that same negative response, right? So during our 30-day vegan challenge, we are going to be eating whole foods, whole real foods, and we are going to be intentional about making sure that we are healing the body through whole foods, including fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, water, abstinence, exercise. We're going to be fasting together, but also we are going to be practicing doing deeper work that allows us to reveal and better understand what we are avoiding, if we're avoiding anything, what it really takes to heal ourselves, because a lot of us don't understand that a moderation approach is a management approach. Like if you want the condition in remission, that's going to be abstinence. If you just want to manage the condition so that you can live with the diagnosis, that's going to be moderation. And so during our challenge, our goal is to teach you these things so that you better understand what's required to truly put something in remission. Most of us have only been taught how to manage it. And that has caused us to be disillusioned, right? We have only been taught how to manage these conditions. And because management includes still eating a little bit of the stuff that caused the condition, we are now under a belief system that says, I can still have a little bit. Yeah, if you want to manage the diabetes. Yeah, if you want to manage the kidney failure. Yes, if you want to manage the cancer. Yes, if you want to manage the depression. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can with a smaller little bit of alcohol. You can manage it, but if you want to be free of it, if you're looking for um, complete remission, if you're looking to be off the medications, then it's managed. The management protocol won't work. We have to go all the way. And so our mission is to expose you to that, help you to experience that so that you can see what it truly takes to get all of the weight off of you and keep it off once and for all. Like it's possible to feel better. It really is, but it's going to take more effort than what you're probably used to putting in. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to get 2 or 3 of your closest buds, get your partner, get your bestie, get all the homies, get registered for the Plant Protocol 30-Day Vegan Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge because you're going to need that support system. We're going to bring a support system, hundreds of people and a team of coaches. I have a team of coaches, okay? So you'll be supported by all of us, but you also need to ensure that your whole ecosystem is in on this. Let them know that you're about to go deeper, you're about to go harder than you've ever went, because it is time to get your health back. It is time to restore optimization, alkalinity, wholeness, right? In your body. It is time to repair the body and the mind. And we're going to do that by putting in more effort than what you're used to. But I promise you it's going to be worth it on the other side. And don't worry, we're going to hold your hand through the emotional stuff that may comes up as you are withdrawing from the substances that you were using to practice avoidance before now. Listen, this has been another Monday Morning Keynote with yours truly, Coach Lisa A. Smith. I will be back here next Monday, same time, with another installment here on our Lifestyle Disease series in our run-up to the next Plant Protocol 30-Day Vegan Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge. Love you guys. Until next time, go eat like you got some sense.